and welcome to The Art of Class. I'm Karen MacIver. Well, it's the fifth in the series and we'll be looking at drive today. Why did I choose this word to describe music we play for movement, and what purpose will that serve? Well, I guess we need to look back at some of the other frameworks that I've already explored in previous presentations. Let's look again at line for a moment. And this iconic film, we can see how the dancer moves freely in 3 dimensions, with sound creating the 4th dimension of time and space, which both the dancer and the musician inhabit. And so line has a feeling of vibration and dimension to it. Now, if we add lift to the dancer's movement vocabulary, the implication is that we're encouraging the dancer on a vertical axis. Although this is true, I talked also in the last presentation about lift that it could be associated with nudge, where we help propel movement with a lightness of touch in our music. So what I'm talking about today is a way of making the horizontal axis more active using drive. It's a means of giving the dancer physical power through our music. Let's look at the 4 simplest fundamentals of music composition. First is sound and silence, high and low, loud and quiet, fast or slow. And of these pairings, we could assume that volume might have something to do with drive. Well, it's not exactly true. I'm going to play a few excerpts of music here that I would identify as having the main ingredient as drive. So for me, it's more to do with density and movement of notes per bar, held within a faster time or tempo framework. I would associate drive more closely with tempo than I would with volume. To keep this analogy going, I'm going to introduce the idea of the correct engine in my music. My colleague Signe Jakobsdottir is an exceedingly talented musician working in dance. She's a percussionist and she introduced me to the idea of playing the right engine. In another musical idiom, I guess we could talk about the right groove. It's all linked to tempo and rhythm. I often ask other dance musicians, which is more important, the tempo or the rhythm? For me, it's the tempo. It is the absolute structure which we must know before we can play correct music for dance. How we make that tempo work is through our choice of rhythm or groove. We may wish to alter the given rhythm by the teacher, suggested by the dance professor, but we must always get the absolutely correct tempo. And so inside that tempo lives the correct groove. Every piece of music ever written inhabits its own bandwidth of tempo. That would explain in part why there are so many interpretations of the concert hall classical repertoire. Each musical interpretation lives alongside many other considerations. It lives within its own bandwidth of tempo. Think of tuning in an old analogue radio. The station's bandwidth functions within a few hertz of difference, but really has a sweet spot where it defines and hits the station. So that for me is how it works. For instance, these pieces of music I played earlier work at a perfect tempo. So let's return to the first short extract I played earlier. I'm pretty much in my highest 5th gear in my car due to the tempo and density of the structure, and I'm really driving my music. So how on earth do we deal with this common request from the dance teacher to play the second side faster? I'm really now out of control. What I need to do is alter or extract the groove within the music that is less active and can release the tempo into 6th gear. And this is how I do it. This bandwidth problem happens often in dance class when the instruction is to push or drive the tempo on the second side or in a repeat. For the dancer, the tempo change is minimal because they are counting using their breath on a slower structure, and we all know that as dancers' counts. Whereas we as musicians often work within a written manuscript in mind where the music necessitates counting at double the rate due to notational issues. My colleague Jonathan still talks about this as counting the pennies rather than the pounds. And so I guess the point I'm making is that the dancer does not feel that essential gear change because they're working in a much slower rate of counting. In fact, it's half the rate of counting. The place that we can nicely see drive happening is in the dynamic exercises in class, such as frappe, grand battement, and of course grand allegro. They all inhabit an optimistic and, dare I say, masculine feel when I'm playing. Tight, forceful, but never too loud, just precise. As ever, I'm going to set a challenge for you in improvisation to help reveal what drive can do for your accompaniment style in class. Stylistically, I often look to the Baroque era to reveal what I need in drive. If we were to think of the harpsichord with no means of pedal sustain and the idea of molto perpetuo, we just about hit the right engine. So for this exercise, I would like you to set up a driving one-note bass line in 4/4 timing, giving a little kick at the bar line. I often use this rhythmic shape as a shorthand for the other styles I've just played. That kick before the main beat is really helpful. A commonly used chord structure in the Baroque era, especially in cadenza or ritornello sequences, involves falling through variations of the diminished 7th chord. Luckily, there are only 3 diminished chords in our musical vocabulary, and they all sit nicely on a pedal point bass note. And guess what? That single pedal note is in the bass creates an ideal tension and release without us doing anything. Once we've established what these diminished chords are, we can start playing around with the order in which we play them. Or indeed, we could arpeggiate them and make them into their own melodies. So thank you for tuning in, and as ever, when the credits are playing, please do enjoy this little film featuring great dancers using the music to drive their movement. Next time, we're going to be exploring support and breadth in music for dance. But for now, thanks and goodbye.